Hello, and welcome to the Enterprise AI podcast. I'm Anton, and this is Ahmed, and we have written a book together called "Architecting Enterprise AI Applications," released through A Press Publishing. And we're going to talk about ourselves. This is going to be an intro to us and an introduction to the podcast about where the topics we're going to cover and where we're going to go from here with different guests and such. So, Ahmed, do you want to introduce yourself?
And I am Ahmed Saif, Anton's co-host and co-author. Together we wrote Architecting Enterprise AI Applications, and we are here to give you a front row seat to the transformative power of AI in the business world.
So I'll give you a little background on me, and then Ahmed will give a background on himself. Uh, why I'm interested in AI and where my perspective comes from. When I was a kid, I remember that I read this picture book. I was in fourth grade, and there was an Isaac Asimov picture book, and there was this story. It was just a kind of a one-page story of uh, these aliens who created this supercomputer, and they asked they asked it one day, "Who is God?" And then it stops for 1,000 years, and then it comes back and it says out of nowhere, "I am God." And they try to unplug it and start shooting people. And there's this picture of this giant mainframe computer and these little aliens running away from like laser beams coming from this computer, and it kind of frightened me. I was a little scared. I remember it stuck with me for a while, and I always remember that. I've tried to find that book. I haven't been able to find that book since. But I think that started my interest in just fascination with robots and AI. Then when I was in school, later on when I was in college, I studied philosophy and theology, and the mind body problem was a big deal for us. So um, what is it to have a mind? What is it to have a spirit? What is it to have a body? How do all those things come together? And as I studied, you see movies like The Matrix and all of this stuff, and how much is mind, how much is body, how much of the world is just subjective in our heads. And the more I read things like Asimov, especially more current sci-fi around robots, and you read we're gonna recreate ourselves, and the AI threat of, well, we're not going to be useful anymore. It started making me think that when we write sci-fi, or we're reading sci-fi stories about AI, about robots, we're really it's really an extension of what we believe about ourselves, and that we really think that we're the robots in these stories. And that was fascinating to me. So uh, when I look at robotics and I do think of it as an augmentation of our physical bodies, right? The AI, or even the AI stuff we're doing now, is like the augmentation of our mind, of the physical, mechanical processes in our mind for pattern recognition, for repetition of tasks, for a lot of things that perhaps we thought was creative before, but really it is, just a repetition. We create processes and we follow these processes, and it takes some cognition to do those things. And of course, robotics obviously is a extension of our fingers and such. So I find it interesting from that perspective. And then also what separates humans from robots, because we've been focusing a lot on what AI is going to take over, but there's a certain amount of things that it can't take over. For instance, entrepreneurialism, right? So from scaling a company, we create these processes. The whole point of scaling a company is you take processes that are pretty well defined, and you define them to a point that you can have a job description and describe processes and procedures that people should enact to do those things. And it seems as though a lot of corporate America is already defined in such a way that it is somewhat repetitive, or at least a lot of pattern recognition. So AI is going to come in and have a huge impact in that area. Entrepreneurialism, creativity, in the way of like that spark of creativity of something brand new. Those are things that we're going to have to uh, get good at and focus in on more than we have. I think in the past, if you were really good at doing something repetitive, if you knew a lot of, tons of book knowledge about a subject in engineering, you could do well in the corporate world. And I think those kind of positions are going away. That fascinates me, and I'm interested in helping people out to navigate that area, figuring it out for myself. What does that mean? So that's kind of my background. um, Hope it wasn't too long-winded, but
Oh,
Ahmed, talk
yeah,
about
that's
yourself.
yeah, yeah, that's very interesting how your path combines imagination and intelligence, and I totally agree with you. For me, I have always been drawn to solving complex problems, especially ones that involve creating efficiencies at scale. So early in my career, I worked on some projects like regarding cloud engineering and DevOps, where I was my primary focus on building infrastructure that could adapt and grow with the needs of the business. So, what pulled me into AI was realizing that while we were automating infrastructure, we could take it a step further by incorporating intelligent insights. So I saw how AI could bring intelligence to business operations and also enabling systems to self-monitor and adapt, also optimize resources automatically. For instance, with machine learning models monitoring usage patterns, we could predict and automatically allocate resources. It was about making infrastructure that was not just automated, right? But intelligent and responsive in real time. So these were really essential, and especially when it comes to some of the writing infrastructure as code. With these practices, we can reliably and quickly deploy AI models and monitor them and ensure they perform well at scale. And that's why combining all these components together with AI was a natural step for me. By automating the deployment and monitoring of machine learning models, we allow AI solutions to evolve and adapt over time. It's a way of bringing AI into the DNA of enterprise systems.
So you mentioned that you were into infrastructure and you got into AI that way. Is that
Right.
because you're thinking about the health of systems? Are you thinking about automation? What was it that what's the connection between infrastructure and AI in your mind? What was that connection that you made there?
That's a really good question. And the connection that I saw is we over years we build a lot of infrastructure, and sometimes we find it really hard to keep up with the maintenance for these infrastructure environments and applications. And we also have a lot of tools. And every other time we bring yet another tool, right? So sometimes you have some trouble keeping up with the increased infrastructure. So what AI can do, you can look into something like agents. Agents is one thing that can literally does what we can do as humans. And when we define certain steps, we need you to execute A, B, C, if D and E and X were flagged. So it it helps humans be more productive and also does the job that needs to be done in a shorter time. So there is a lot of time savings and also money that you could reduce your expenses. You can focus on high quality jobs in your work. So that has drawn me into AI, and it was like really a natural step for me to step into AI and the connection between it and the infrastructure.
I remember back in 2000 and, 2001, maybe 2000. I remember I was a young engineer and I was learning all of the things. I was actually in a marketing department. I was there. Uh, had the decision support system. So we had Oracle, we had Access, we had SQL Server, all these things. And one of the first exposures I had to a large database was Microsoft SQL Server. And we were moving from Microsoft SQL Server 7, which I think was like 1997, 1998 technology, to SQL Server 2000. Now, this is ancient history, right? It's 25 years ago now, but it was a big upgrade for us. And I had been learning. I was trying to go through the certification programs for all of these things, and the move from 7 to 2000 was huge in terms of the efficiencies, in terms of how it managed the logs on the back end, how you could search the logs, how you could do rollbacks. All of these things were manual before. It just built all of this stuff in, and we had conversations uh, at that time. One of the other things that we talked about was offshoring. Offshoring was a big deal for. I was at a large insurance company at the time, and it was before we actually had a lot of contractors. At this point, it's just the state of the world. It's fine, but we were shipping a lot of our work over to India, and this was a secret thing at the time because it was still a big political thing that people, our company, my director really didn't want it to get out into the news that we were sending work over to India. And as I was learning Microsoft Server 2000, I had this aha moment. I remember this moment when I'm sitting in my chair there in the Chicagoland area, and I thought, man, I don't need to worry about other people taking my job. It's these tools themselves that are going to eliminate most of what we
Right.
do. That was way back when. That was a very early thing that I thought, and I that was also what got me to think, all right,
That was over
oh,
25 years ago,
that's right.
right?
And it was
Yeah.
that moment when I kind of decided, all right, what do I need to do? It's not learning all of these technical things. I had just learned about architecture, and I didn't know what that was before. I didn't study tech in school. I had a neighbor who did it, and it turns out I was pretty good at programming. So I was able to
Right.
get into tech because it was I just found I was good at it. So as I'm sitting here looking at adminning this server and all of these, transactional logs and all of this, I thought, okay, I need to bring myself up a level to something else. And I just found out about architects. I'm like, okay, architecture is where it's at. If you could put all these pieces together that are very like lots of pieces, not just SQL Server 2000, a single one, but like how do you get it to work with Oracle? How do you get it to work with,
Right.
Java and all of these other things in the enterprise? And how do you tie that into a business and get people understanding what's happening? That architecture layer at that point, I decided, okay, I want to be an architect because as an architect, I'm not going to be replaced because these tools cannot replace
Right.
architecture. I think what we're finding in infrastructure, which is interesting in the cloud space, is there's not a real cookie cutter approach to a lot of these to the cloud architecture. It's fairly specific to your own company where you're at, right? I mean, would you agree to that? I mean,
Right.
I know you can take a test on AWS architecture, but it seems very
I
specific. I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think?
I think you're right, and I totally agree with you on that. And the use of like these new tools with infrastructure in AWS, uh, you can do so much work without worrying about building infrastructure. You just need whatever compute you need. You just with few clicks in less than few minutes, you could spin up a $100,000 server that you can't buy with just few few bucks per hour, right? So that had made a huge shift in the business world and how we look into optimizing resources and how if we want to scale our work up, it's not a big issue anymore. because with just few clicks you can auto scale any infrastructure you want and based in your needs, and you only pay as you go. So that shift has improved the way we look at scaling businesses and scaling infrastructure. And with that being said, now you can start your own company within few hours, right? You can sell products online. You can build your own website with these new tools that can uh, build the whole website for you in a matter of few minutes with just few commands. So that has changed a lot of the routine tasks, or some of the tasks that doesn't need previous knowledge. And with AI in the scenario now, you can also be very efficient. You can improve your performance. You can literally learn any thing from a senior engineer or a senior leader, just few clicks away from you anytime.
But what if you're very efficient at building the wrong thing, at solving the wrong problem? What if you
That's that
optimize towards building something that nobody needs?
that's a big issue, because it's basically wasting resources. And what businesses are looking for is money. And if you're doing this, that means you are taking wrong or bad decisions. That means uh, you will no longer have new funds to support your work, right?
AI is very
So
good at doing it exactly as you tell it to do, right? If you
right,
tell it to spin a
you need to define everything, every single steps, what you want to achieve.
at a certain level,
And here what
right?
where it comes, yeah, at certain level. And that comes when you said, like, AI cannot replace architects. So you need to spend a lot of time thinking how you want to maintain your solution long term. And this is what architects do, right? You need to make sure that you have a fully function service or a product or any tool, and you're gonna make sure that the business or the company will use it long term, and it has also long term support, because some of the tools in a few years they are doing really good job, and they got, after some point, some other company that buys them out, and then we've seen it that the support goes down, and your products are no longer supported, and you are paying a lot of money for it. So what's going to happen? You will just end the contract and find another vendor for your solutions,
Well,
right?
that reminds me of a quote that C.S. Lewis had. He said, sometimes if you're going down the wrong path, the fastest way to get to where you're going is to turn around and go backwards. And an interesting thing from an AI perspective is if you find yourself going down the wrong path, first you have to recognize that you're on the wrong path. But if you go
But how would you recognize
right,
that you're in the wrong
well,
path,
not through AI likely,
right?
right? I mean, maybe there's certain
Right,
things maybe that you can tell, right? If you train it, and we can get into reward mechanisms and such later on. If you reward it
right,
to train to recognize certain patterns, or you know, uh, sure, I get that, but AI makes it really easy to start something up from scratch. Now, it's
right,
not an expert. Right now, it's not an expert at anything, really. I mean, it's an expert at very technical things, very specialist things. But if you're starting a new enterprise, if you're starting like to learn Java from scratch, or if you need to move from AWS and you're like, oh my gosh, AWS is way too expensive for some reason, you think this and want to go to Azure or something, you can take out what you have in AWS and start fresh in Azure fairly easily because
right,
of the fact that all of the starting stuff, all of the junior level stuff, the 101 level stuff, technically, from a specialist perspective, is done for you. Even research, if
right,
you decide that you've gone down the wrong path, and I think this is the disruptive force for entrepreneurism, is if you decide you've gone down the wrong path or you want to expand in some area that you don't know about, using AI for research is amazing because all of that upfront legwork can be done for you. No, it'll only take you
Right.
so far. It'll only take you to
Yeah.
the common approaches. It won't find your niche for you. It's not going to find the thing that is going to differentiate you because it's just what it read on. I always say what it read on Reddit, right? And
Right.
Wikipedia. But it does that research for you. It saves you so much time. And so if you find yourself going down the wrong path or you want to expand somewhere else, it's so much easier to get a foothold and start off somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that, and I see it depends on what is the problems that you're trying to solve. Like if we use AI in marketing, there is it's very beneficial, and if it goes, there is always trade-offs. If you find out that you took a wrong decision, it's okay because you don't need to, there is no high stakes uh, uh, um, consequences if, a campaign doesn't go wrong, right? But what if you use AI in a production systems for your company? If it goes down for 1 hour or 2 hours, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that your company just
Right.
lost. So it really depends on what is the use case for AI
Strategy.
and
You need a strategy
how,
up front.
yeah,
Think about things
right,
because it's easy to jump into something. I mean, we're talking about cloud, right?
right,
Cloud issues are, of course, abundant. You could get yourself in hot water real quick with a AWS account and a credit card with a high limit.
right.
So with that,
And how much,
we're going to have to
yeah,
cut off for today. Um, but I'm really looking forward to more conversations coming up. I'm hoping to Ahmed and I have some friends in this space, and we're gonna do some interviews and talk to some interesting people in the from a teamwork perspective with Agile and Scrum. I say Scrum, but they would get on me for that. Some Agile people who are very forward thinking and have thought about teamwork and what AI means to teamwork. We have a friend who does symbolic logic instead of machine learning for AI. That is fascinating to me. And we have some other friends as well that we can talk to over the course of the next few weeks. So look forward to more conversation. Got any final parting thoughts, Ahmed?
yeah. Thank you, Anton, and we would love to hear from you. If you have any question or specific topics you would like us to discuss, just reach out to us. And thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot. See you next time. Bye bye.
See ya. Bye.